Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? This is Enrique Sanchez of Spanish United. Today we have a very special guest. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
My name is Mark Infanti. I am the mayor of Solvang, city of Solvang in Santa Barbara County, California.
Welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yes, I'm interviewing you because I'm interested to know about the city of Solvang because it's known as the Danish capital of America. I was there many years ago as a kid, but it's been a long time. So we wanted to ask. The Hispanic community wants to know more about the city of Solvang and what the town is about. If you could tell me, please.
Well, there's a whole lot to that question. The town, as you suggested, is Danish in heritage. It was formed by a bunch of Danish immigrants back around the turn of the century, formed into a city and a city government established around the 50s. So we have found ourselves to be extremely appealing as a tourist destination. From a population, from a size, we're 2.2 square miles, approximately 6,100 residents. And for the Spanish, that we are about 43% Spanish population.
Oh wow, it's grown a lot. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, despite the fact that we're Danish in heritage, there is a large Spanish population here. One of our city council members, Claudia Orona, is probably the most obvious representative of the community. Her father, Salvatore Orona,
Hmm.
is the one who handles the horse-drawn carriage that goes through town. That's very well known. It's called
Hmm.
honen in Danish, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um, so there is a very, very large representation in the Spanish community.
Oh, nice. And what are the things that the town does? Is like I know that it's a Danish heritage town, but do people still maintain their customs? Like, do they still speak Danish? Do they have Danish festival? They have Danish cultural events? It's like, what does the town do?
Yeah, that's a it's another great question. You've been at this for a while, huh, Enrique?
Yeah, been
Uh,
it's been a long time.
um, so we have a number of Danish festivals. We have the Yule Fest, which is the Christmas season, which is a long period in the winter time where we do a large number of Danish events. We have a couple of other events going on during the year that are Danish oriented. Back to your one of your other parts of your question was the Danish speaking. You don't hear any, very, very few people speak Danish. We're now in the probably the third generation from the people who actually founded this, that were the Danes.
Hmm.
On the other hand, I just recently met with a woman who is with the Nielsborg School in Denmark,
Hmm.
and she is trying to arrange foreign exchange students over here from Denmark,
Hmm.
which we had done in the past. We haven't done it recently with the COVID crisis, but
Hmm.
they're starting it again. So there's a lot in that regard. If you go down the main tourist street, for lack of a better
Hmm.
expression, there's a place there called the Copenhagen House.
Hmm.
And that house has in it a great museum of Danish implements, swords and things from the
Hmm.
Vikings and
Hmm.
things of that nature, as well as everything in there was made by a Dane.
Hmm.
So it's a big building and it's got quite a bit of stuff in it. It's a fascinating place. And the gentleman that owns it and his girlfriend are they both speak Danish fluently and go to Denmark a couple times a year. So there's a lot of that. You can find Danish speakers. You go to our visitors center. The click cards are the people who run the visitors center, and they are Danish speaking, and he plays the accordion, Danish music. He does a lot of things like that. So there is a lot that goes on around the Danish heritage of the city.
Nice. Have you ever been to Denmark yourself, Mayor?
No, I have to admit I have not, and it's crossed my mind. We have a sister city in Denmark called Aalborg, and I would love to visit it. It's apparently not too far from Copenhagen. And I would like to see if I can get there sometime, but no, I've not been there yet myself.
I've never been to Denmark, but I have been to Norway, been to Finland, and I also went to the Danish Cultural Center, Jørgen, where they have a Lutheran church out there, and I got to speak with the pastor. They're very nice, and
Oh, wow.
one thing that I like about Danish culture is that it's like a fairy tale land. Like when you look at the houses and everything, it looks like a fairy tale land. Like I think of Hans Christian Andersen, the Ugly Duckling, you know, those stories like Heidi, you know, that's what comes to my mind when I think of Denmark. So
Yeah, and if you look around Solvang, we actually have in the city what's called a design review committee. So if you want to repaint, re-roof, put up a sign, put up a new business, you have to meet the designs of the city. And in the tourist related commerce area, the downtown section, if you will,
mhm.
we insist on it looking like it did more like 50 to 70 years ago. I don't think, from what I know of Copenhagen, if you go to a downtown area, it doesn't look quite like ours does anymore.
Hmm.
But the old thatched roofs and the exposed timbers on the side of the building, all of that, and on the colors, all of that is still evident in Solvang. So that's one of the reasons I would like to go there, go to Denmark, is to see what part of the country still maintains those architectural styles.
And I also heard that the city of Solvang also has like a blue cheese festival or blue cheese making thing. Is that true?
Not to my knowledge.
Because I know that blue cheese originally comes from Denmark, so I know that many Danish places have blue cheese.
That you completely stumped me on that one. I don't know anything about blue cheese in Denmark.
Really, yeah. That originally blue cheese was originally a Danish invention that was started by accident by someone that was in a cave that had cheese and became moldy, and then they created blue cheese.
Okay, now I'm going to have to go ask some of my restaurant owning business owners and see what they can tell me, because I did not know that.
Yes, yes, and also another thing I was gonna ask, as mayor, like, what would you like to do in terms of improving the town in terms of Danish Hispanic relations, like in the town for Hispanic people that want to have relations with Danish people or just have a cultural connection with the Danish people of the town?
Ooh, what would I like to do? Um, it, it's it's funny, and I don't want to sound demeaning. A lot of the people that work in the city can't afford to live in the city,
Hmm.
regardless of their race or background.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that we as a city are trying to do is increase the amount of, the term uses workforce housing. This is housing that isn't so expensive, but yet nice, convenient, and in the neighborhoods with everybody else. So that's the bringing the cultures together. Um, we don't have much open land. Again, we're a small community.
Hmm.
And then you got to get somebody to build it, even if we make the land available. And they've got, there's the technical issues here are quite magnificent.
Hmm.
But that is the closest thing I can think of offhand. We don't have, in spite of the fact we have a very large Spanish population, um, we don't have a lot of events around that background. Um, and I haven't heard a big need for it, or a demand for it. Um, I've never thought about how we would combine the two necessarily.
Well, one of the things that we do in Spanish United is, aside from doing community work, like we do a lot of outreach for homeless people, people that are destitute, and looking after those that fall into the cracks. But we also do a lot of not in, I wouldn't say interracial, but intercultural relations with different groups, particularly with those that are not too familiar with Hispanic community for various reasons. And the part of it is to create a harmony between other people, because I feel that today and age, Hispanic people do contribute a lot in the economy, and if Hispanics were more visible, especially in communities where they live in, they could dispel any stigmas that people may have. Them at the same time, they could learn from one another's culture. So, like, I met with various mayors and different community leaders to try to do like events where we try to get people from the Hispanic community and the hosting community to get together.
And that makes sense. A lot. Some of what would fall into that category has to do with the parades. For instance, when we have our 4th of July parade, one of the greatest horse show parts of that is a Spanish conquistador type of group. I don't know what to call them
Mhm.
officially, but they do the most magnificent dancing with horses. It's just beautiful. And of course, we have some great horse people around here. This is an agricultural community.
Mhm.
Again, we're a small community in the middle of wine country and horse country. This area has something in the neighborhood of 55 separate breeds of horses.
Mhm.
So and we've got hundreds of vineyards. So from the point of view of the horsemanship, I would say a great amount of that, if not the majority of it, is with Spanish farms around here.
Mhm.
And they're involved with a lot of the things, the vaqueros, rides through town, those types of things. But I can't say that I've heard of much else um, uh, with a Spanish influence to it. Every once in a while there's something, but nothing really stands out. I'm embarrassed to say that.
Oh, that's fine. That's the whole purpose of me reaching out to you, because, like I said, I'm trying to create awareness of Hispanic people, and also to encourage that, Hispanics are contributing members of society, and at the same time that we, care about the communities that we live in, and to just improve the image of the Hispanic community overall.
Excellent. And we have some great people here. That's never been an issue. I don't think there's any kind of a division. It's just, I've not seen a great amount of, Cinco de Mayo or any of the big events like that here that I recall.
Mhm. And but again, like I said, that's the whole point, is to, reach out to different communities to try to come up with a consensus, like to do something, so that way, there could be better relations with both people. And one of the things that I like about Solvang, that it's a very unique community, especially here in California, where you don't see too many enclaves like that too often. And it is something unique that many people can learn from.
Absolutely.
And also another question I was gonna ask, you don't speak Danish, I'm assuming.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. No. I stumble over English half the time. No, I do not speak Danish.
No, I asked because I know that many mayors of different ethnic communities, they at least speak or understand some of the language of the community that they represent. That's why I asked.
Well, it's interesting. I know a few of the words and some of the salutations. I'm a member of a philanthropic group called the Solvang Vikings, and we have a song that says, here's to all of us, and one of those kind of things. And so I know a few words, but I to speak it, no, I'm afraid I'm horribly bad at that.
The only thing I know how to say in Denmark is, I mean, in Danish is tusind tak, hello, and Danmark. That's about it.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Be my guest.
It, as you come into town from east or west, there's a sign that says Solvang, entering Solvang. It's a
Hmm.
wooden sign. It uses the excuse me, it uses an image of the mermaid on top of a rock, which is the city emblem. And it was in disrepair, and so a member of the city had to volunteer to go out and paint it. And while he was out painting this sign, a couple of tourist vehicles pulled up, and they said, "Why do you call this town Solvang?" And he says, "Well, it means sunny fields, and that's the history of the town." He goes, "Well, we're from." I'm gonna miss the day. Shoot, I forget the country now. Estonia, that's what it was. We're
Yeah.
from Estonia, and in Estonian, Solvang means insulting.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
I know. Languages. Wow. Anyhow, but that's, these are the little things you pick up from time to time.
Well, of course, and that's one thing about languages. Like, for example, a word that we use that may not be bad or just be whatever could have a whole different meaning in a different language. So that's why, language can be very interesting, especially when people have certain words or pronunciations that could mean something completely different in a completely different language.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one final thought would be what what is the future of Solvang? Like, where do you see Solvang like 10, 20 years from now?
Wow. It's a question we have been dealing with recently. So the state requires that every city have what's called a general plan. The general plan dictates what you're going to do over the next 10 years, and it has to be updated about every 8 years, and sometimes more recently for parts of it, including the housing element. So anyway, the the wow. So predominantly, not a lot of change. Can I say that? I mean, we have this charming little town. We don't have much crime. We have no graffiti. We have the most welcoming little town. So when tourists come here, they feel great. There's a variety of things to do. You can go down to the Alisal Ranch and you can go ride horses and live, stay out at the ranch. You can come into town and have all kinds of different food. We have had movies made about the town. There's little that I would want to change. And I think that's the predominant feeling of the residents in this city. We don't want it to change. A prior city council came up with this idea of modernizing the city. They called it Solvang 2.0. Boy, if you want to see the residents get their backs up, they hated that. So it is in the next 10 to 20 years. I don't have there's so many issues that we deal with in the city. Water is a big one. It's a statewide issue. In spite of all the rains right now, we still have problems with water sources. And that one bothers me more than anything else. And how are we going to handle that in the future? But other than that, we kind of like the city the way it is. We're very happy here. And I don't think most of us want it to change much over the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, of course, when people have a certain way of living, they want to keep as much as they can.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've come to the end of our interview. I want to thank you so much for the interview, Merrick. Really appreciate it, and for your listeners that are in the town of Solbag. We are on social media, Spanish United, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And as soon as I'm finished editing, I will text you both the link and email you the link to the interview.
Thank you, Enrique. I'd love to see it.
Have yourself a wonderful day, man.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.